Right, well, let's move on to not the Browns, but the Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens. I've got their I've got their off-season needs written down here as a wide receiver, an edge rush, and a safety. But you would like to disagree with me on the wide receiver, so let's just get into that straight
Yeah,
away.
I don't have a problem with them getting Lamar another wide receiver. And I know people are going to, the big thing on the internet is they have Hollywood. They have these guys. Snead had he had 800 and 900 yards with Breeze. So but I don't think that's what it is. And people are going to go, Lamar's the problem. Well, Lamar's the issue, but not the problem. Lamar is a running quarterback with great athleticism who Greg Roman set this offense up around his athleticism. If you have 4 or 5 guys who catch 500 yards plus, you do not need a 1,000-yard receiver. Hollywood Brown can take the top off a defense. Their tight ends are fucking some of the best tight end groupings for what they do in the league. So if you get him a number 1, I'm cool with it, but I don't think that's absolutely a need. I almost think you're better off beefing up your offensive line, beefing up your defensive line, and helping out your secondary, because Lamar's got tight ends and receivers who are very capable. And I also think that it was weird for them last year because they were transitioning from Ingram being that bell cow back to Josh Dobbins. Dobbins? Yeah. Kid from Ohio State. I think I got it right. But whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that last year they didn't get to their full potential because there was some aging players that they were like, whoa, okay, Ingram's great, but he's not as great as he was. So they had to change it up a little. I think their defense let them down at times. Granted, Lamar's not perfect, but I think you're going to win more games with him than without him. So I'm not sold that a receiver is a must. And I really hate when teams don't do this, but the fans of teams or talking heads are like, they have to draft a quarterback in the first round, or they have to. What if there's no decent wide receiver when they draft? You want them to reach? I'm a firm believer if you take the best possible player, and if there's 2 players who are close, then you fill a need.
Yeah. I love it when teams take the best possible player, but I think there is a high chance with this wide receiver class, the best possible player will fill.
Just don't force it. It's my theory, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think with the Baltimore Ravens, I think they do. I personally do think they need weapons. They need a true number 1. Like Hollywood Brown is not a number 1 receiver.
I think if you put him with Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, he's a number 1. I do. I just think the offense they play doesn't suit a receiver to get 1,000 yards or to get 1,200 yards. I think that, and go ahead, maybe I'm wrong, bring in a number 1 receiver, but I still don't think he has 1,000 yards with the weapons they have because it's such a run first, tight end driven offense. But that's just me.
Yeah, well, I think there's so many questions over Lamar's arm that I think there's this is an opportunity to say, there you go. This is an opportunity to just go, let's find out. Let's see what happens. Because if you get that number 1 receiver, you get Marquise Brown as well. Number 2, great number 2 receiver, Marquise Brown. I would never say he's a Hollywood Brown. I would never say he's a number 1. But if you get someone like Allen Robinson, who they're probably going to tag, but if you can say to Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin to come, they're probably going to get tagged because of how low the tag is on wide receivers at the minute. But if by some miracle they hit free agency, then you can get those guys and they will enhance your running game because all of a sudden somebody's got to come out the box to double team.
If you want to go out, if you're saying go out in free agency and get a wide receiver, I'm all for that. I think what I see on the internet is everybody's like, they have to draft one in the first round. And I'm like, no, they don't. They don't have to, because I feel like they're set up to win the way they are. Yeah. And people I said before, and it's not shitting on him, but I said Lamar has problems with those deep out routes to the edges. Lamar had a problem throwing the ball coming out of college. Year 1, shaky. Year 2, balling out. He just gets better every year. I do believe he will figure it out. So maybe I have more faith in Lamar too, that he's just going to keep progressing as a passer than a lot of the internet people.
Yeah.
That's why I don't think I think they're looking at Lamar like he's Patrick Mahomes, and that's not his game.
Yeah, I think he's like a run first kind of guy. I do like to see Lamar kind of take off with the ball rather than holding it in. Whereas Mahomes stands there, holds it, looks around, and then he'll take off if there's nothing there. Same with Kyler Murray. Stands.
See, I'd like him to be
off, and then goes.
I think he's going to get more like Kyler Murray.
Yeah,
but be better with his legs. You get what I'm saying? Always looking downfield. That's all I'm looking for from Lamar is when you go to run, keep your eyes downfield. He will get that. He is a smart fucking kid. And the only reason I know he's a smart kid is because of the growth that he has had since he's been in the league. Also, I think you do actually have a good shot at both those free agent wide receivers, Godwin and Robinson, because I think that Robinson made it pretty clear with his tweets that he wants out.
He wants out, yeah.
And I think you have to keep Shaq Barrett because of the weapons, and you have Tom Brady, but we'll see how this all plays out. Yeah. And the league's going to have to give a salary cap number before Tuesday because that's when the cap the tag has to be.
Yeah, and then there's people like T.Y. Hilton in there as well. The reason that I'm saying this,
assuming that the Colts bring him back, but you're right.
Yeah. The reason that I'm saying this is because there's so many good wide receivers to go that you may as well just say go for it. Like you may as well say go. And for their draft pick as well, I've gone for Terrence Marshall Jr., the LSU wide receiver, because I think he gets to them. Like you can also have Rashad Bateman as well. If they don't make a play,
is the most underrated receiver in this draft.
Yeah, I think I think if he makes it down to the Ravens, then they take him. And he has the body of a number one receiver. You know, like he looks like he could just dominate whoever. Big after the catch, can get down the field, which kind of takes people out the box, which enhances their offense. Don't make it their offense. Don't get a number one receiver and make it the offense. That's not how they're going to play. Get a number one receiver to enhance your offense and make the box open a little bit more.
That's a good pick because he fits their philosophy. He's a tough receiver who will block. Also, he's underrated because he played opposite of Justin Jefferson, so he didn't get the credit for what he was doing. Yeah. He was doing some amazing stuff with that team. And like I said, I think he just got downshadowed because of Jefferson. And then all of a sudden you come into COVID season and you know what I mean? It was such a different thing. Actually, now that if he's still there, that is the perfect pick at a receiver for them, only because he's got that tough AFC North mentality too.
Yeah, there's a couple of draft picks there's a couple of mock drafts that have him kind of down there and ready to go. So the Ravens then pick him, and then you have a guy who you can say, "Well, Lamar, we've given you these guys. Go now. You have to prove that you can make those throws," and then that kind of tells us a bit more who Lamar is. They also need an edge rusher, and there's obviously you take your edge rushers in the first round. The safety issue can be pushed down the line. You can sort that out a bit later on. But any ideas for edge rusher for the Ravens? Anybody who you'd like to see?
Well, there's now for the Ravens, because I think they actually have going to have a better pass rush than they did last year, just alone on Queen being a year into that system. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I almost think for the Ravens, they shouldn't go pass rusher in the draft unless a great one falls to them. Yeah. And there's going to be guys like people probably have never heard of Afadi Denabo.
I've never heard of that.
He's been a backup for the Vikings who's going to hit free agency, but the kid's a stud as a backup getting 8 sacks a year.
Yeah.
I think there's guys who are going to, and the Vikings just signed Stephen Weatherly back, so they're not going to need him. But there's a lot of guys who are going to hit the market that people think are mid-level, but they're better than what people think because they were sitting behind somebody else. And this is the weird offseason where I almost think, don't even think draft yet where they are. You know, you have to plan.
Yeah.
But we're going to see some guys hit this free agent market because of this cap where I think you can fill a lot of holes for cheaper. And I think guys are actually going to cut some of their vets to bring in another vet who's cheaper because he's better. So there's going to be this musical chairs all around the league. And because I think they have guys who will be premier like Queen, I think all you need is a really good guy. But don't get me wrong. They don't grow on trees. So if a guy drops to you, take them. But I do think like the kid out of South Carolina is going to be gone before we get there. And, you know, you're drafting kind of in no man's land too. So for me, and this is just normal draft, I think that's probably the sweet spot to get probably the best safety on the board.
Yeah, I think, actually, that is probably the best place to get the best safety on the board. But, you know,
they're in a bad position and a good position. Bad position because they need quite a bit of stuff to fill out, but they're in a good position because you need enough stuff where you really can pick the best player available.
Yeah, and the Ravens kind of, I think we found out that in our research that the Ravens have more holes than we thought they did. When I was doing my research, I was like, oh, the Ravens have got a few gaps to fill right now.
It's their depth that hurts them, right? Because they got studs at every level. They just don't have the depth they need right now. So that's where you got to bring in young guys who are going to be good. And so that someday they can take over for your expensive guys.
Yeah. And we're not saying that the Ravens suck. Like basically,
oh no, they're still going to the playoffs.
We're saying, they're just in a really good, they're just in a really good division.
And we're just talking needs right now because that's what you talk this time of year.
Yeah. We're talking needs. I'm kind of on the side of the Steelers, like, maybe they won't be that good, you know. But with the Ravens, I'm confident that they're going to be a good team.
Well, Maddie, I think we covered them all. Anything else you'd like to add? Just cut me off and jump in.
No, I think we're good. I think we've got them.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, like and follow, or like and subscribe. If you're watching us on Facebook, like and follow. And Maddie's going to be dropping some podcasts on different platforms. So you can look out for that. And Maddie, you got any idea what some of the platforms may be for them?
Yeah, in weeks to come. So it takes a while before you can get registered on things like Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify Podcast. So they should be on by next week, and it will be the Yankee and the Brit. So if you prefer to not look at us when we're talking, which is very understandable with the hair that we've got going on and things like that, then I think that's a great place for you to listen to it too. And it'll be on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcast, as well as things like Breaker. And if you particularly want it on any other podcasting things, please feel free to comment below and let us know. If you're listening to this on the podcast already, I'm sorry you didn't need to hear that, but you know, that's fine. Great.
Fair enough. All right, guys. Well, if you don't think we suck, tell a friend to tell a friend. And thanks again for watching. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.